Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Net podcast. I'm your host Brian. Joining me today is some very special guests hailing from West Virginia. Guys from 6 Hours for a Lifetime. How y'all doing today?
Doing good.
I guess can y'all introduce your names?
Yeah, I'm Jeff Fleming.
I guess what instruments do y'all play?
I play the acoustic guitar, mostly rhythm. I play a little bit of electric rhythm, but mostly the acoustic rhythm part of our songs. It's about all I play is the guitar.
And you sing.
And I sing, yeah, of course I sing.
I'm the singing voice. That's the thing. All right. And let's go down the line. Who?
I'm Jaime. I play some of the lead work. Me and Jeff, we co-written most of the music that's on the album together. But yeah, I mostly play guitar.
All right. And last one?
And I'm Kevin Johnson. I play guitar, split lead duties with Jaime. Jaime does some vocals and stuff as well. I sing some backup vocals and anything else that we need thrown in there, a little bit of bass and whatnot and whatever.
That's pretty good to hear. And which part of West Virginia are y'all hailing from?
Southern part of West Virginia. Me and Jamie's from close to a little town called Chapmanville, West Virginia. Southern part of the state, almost Kentucky there in Logan County.
That's pretty cool. And
Yep.
Kevin?
And I'm in Charleston. I'm in Kanawha County.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
Still the southern part of the state, though.
Yeah. It's a big state, too. I mean, I've driven through West Virginia a good many times, but we were always driving through to get to Georgia. And I'd say West Virginia was the main one that had a good amount of hours always driving through it, too.
Yeah.
Beautiful country.
It takes a while to get through the state.
Yeah.
You ain't lying. I'll tell you that much. So everyone, welcome to my podcast right here. The ways it's going to work is we're going to get to know you each, both as the musicians, but also as the individuals, too. So I got the questions right here. Hope you all had time to review. So you all ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we'll start with the first one. So you did already introduce your names and everything, too. So I guess let's get into like how you guys became musicians and then how you formed the band 6 Hours for a Lifetime. So I guess whoever wants to start off first or wants to...
Jeff, Jaime.
Maybe go by seniority or something like that.
So I started playing guitar at a pretty young age. I was exposed to music. A lot of my family, they were musicians. So early on, it's always been a part of my life. And then I I was probably 16 or so. I come across this guy, and we thought it would be a cool idea to start picking a little bit here and there. And as luck would have it, we formed a band and we played for about 3 or 4 years.
Close to 4 years.
So yeah, that's how I met Jeff, and that's really where I started getting serious with pursuing music as more than a hobby. And we started playing about over 20 years ago, and the songs that we've released on the album, all of them's 20 plus years old songs. Of course, to bring us up to date now, we hadn't played me and Jaime hadn't sat down and played probably 15 years together. And we'd run across each other from time to time passing. He's, I'm in my early 20s when we met. He's in his late teens, and it just weren't the right moment in time to further pursue the songs we'd been writing, which we had 20 plus songs originals that we had wrote them many years ago, and it just wasn't right time, wasn't right situation. Me and him either was both in. I, just started my life. He was about to start his life, and it just, it wasn't God's time. So almost around Christmas, be 2 years, we got back, started playing, picking back up and playing, and he has a crazy idea to maybe start going back and going to the vault and maybe recording these songs. And start sharing them with everybody that we had held on to for these many years. And of course, I'd got to know Kevin the past 4 or 5 years in my life. He'd come into my life about 4 or 5 years ago, and we was throwing ideals back. Well, how are we going to do this? It's a new age, a new time. Recording's different than 20 years ago, and we're just two pieces here. Lead guitar player, rhythm guitar player. We both sang, and we was thinking about adding a couple more members, and of course, Kevin, dear friend of mine, past 4 or 5 years now. We got really close, and actually never had an inkling that either one of us played any instrument, much less write music. And I told Jaime, I sent Kevin a song, and he's like, "Who is that?" And I said, "You ain't gonna believe me." And I told him, I said, "That's actually me and a buddy of mine." He said, "Man, that's a really good song." I said, "Well, I appreciate it." And we, small talk there. Me and Jaime, started playing in, and I said, I know a guy really well, good person, heart's in the right place. What do you think about seeing if he'd be interested in coming over? And we had no clue that Kevin knowed anything about the modern age recording, because he'd done some solo stuff up till Kevin can bring you up to speed on that a few years ago, but and so we asked Kevin, we talked about it and brought Kevin into the fold, and then of course we formed who we are now, 6 Hours for a Lifetime. That's how we come together. Kevin, you can share your.
Nah, that's just basically how it was, Jeff. I think he'd actually sent me the song. He sent me was one off our album called "Believe," and it was all. Or no, he'd sent me something else, and then he had talked about that song. Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah, Let Me Be. And then he talked about Believe, and he said, I always heard a piano in this song. And I was like, well, send it to me and I'll see what I can do. And I went through and done that. And then from there, it was started off, I just throw some bass parts down here and there. And then I started throwing guitar parts in here and there too. And just because I've had a studio for years, and it's just it kind of went off to the wayside, basically because family and how I met Jeff was I coached baseball. His son's the same age, and we met that way, and that takes up a lot of my time. So I just kind of steered away because I wasn't doing as much with music anymore. And yeah, this got me back into it, and it was just right place, right time. It's kind of weird that we'd known each other that long and hadn't even really talked about playing music or anything like that. Like, I didn't even really know Jeff played at all. So it was yeah, right place, right time type of thing.
I would say the epiphany or a God-given moment, to be honest. So
yeah,
I can see what you mean there. So I guess why 6 Hours for a Lifetime? I guess where'd that name come from?
So when we decided, okay, we're going to do this, and then found out Kevin, that was the genius he is, that he's able to use all this modern age technology to record, and we decided to record these songs and start recording them. Well, we got to have a name, and the former name that me and Jaime had played with, we just didn't want to use it. We didn't want to tie, anything, it's fresh. New. We want to start fresh. So we tossed about names, and is name after name after name. And we'd Google it. We get up with, find a cool name that one of us would think about, and we'd Google it, and there's a band called that. Scratch that. So we went round and round, and we was all on a phone call one night and discussing things, and we got back on the name topic. Well, what are we going to call ourselves? And I was sitting there, and there's a lyric in a song that is on the album called "One More Time." In the second verse, the lyric says 6 hours of pure agony. So that goes through my mind, and I just said, "What about 6 hours?" And we was kind of, nobody was kind of buying into it, and I didn't know if I was really buying into it. I just was spitballing. Everybody was, no. So then a day or two maybe later, weren't it, Kevin? Something like that. It was a day or two later, and we was still dealing with names, and it was
we needed a name because we had to have stuff for the distribution company that we were using.
Yeah.
So, and we were ready to release our first single, so it was crunch time. We need a name today. It's one of those deals.
The assignment is due, and the teacher is getting impatient now. So
yeah. And
don't bring out the ruler. Don't bring out the ruler. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So me and Kevin was talking one night, and he brought back up 6 hours. He said, "Hey, the 6 hours you brought up the other day." He said, "What's that mean?" And I said, Christ was on the cross for 6 hours. The last 6 hours of his life, he was on the cross, and that's why that lyric, 6 hours of pure agony, the last 6 hours of his life was just torture, crucified, during them times, during Roman times, the worst penalty of death you could ever receive. And he said, he stopped there a minute and he got real kind of quiet. He said, 6 hours for a lifetime. And I immediately said, "What did you just say?" He said, 6 hours for a lifetime. I was like, oh my God. He said, for your life, for my life, for everybody's life. He said he give his last 6 hours of his life for everybody. I said, that's right. 6 hours for a lifetime. I said, that's it. I said, that's the name. So, Jamie, we call him.
So we decided on that name not only because it was that long, but it was for the gang signs, 6-4L, for our crew. But no. So we're on the phone, and he's like, "Okay, 6 hours for a lifetime. That's their name. It's submitted. We're done." And I was at this point so sick and tired of talking about names. I was at work, and I pulled off on the side of the road. I got out and kissed the ground and thanked, the universe that we finally found our name. And the lady across the street, she's looking at me like, "What's wrong with this guy?" I was like, "I'd like to thank you that we found her name." And but yeah, so it was a relief, to say the least.
Yeah.
I was like, "Son, you need to get yourself a doctor," that sort of thing. So.
Well, I was to the point where I was considering medication.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got to understand too. But it's a lot different.
Bands out there with a lot of great names.
Oh, man.
And it was tough.
It was a chore to figure.
But in all reality, that we believe, we actually done a podcast with what's her name, Kevin? We just done the podcast with Glenn.
Lithocracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he really dived deep into our name, and there's a lot of number formats in our name. And when
numerology
album, and because the album was 360, there's a lot of numbers that wasn't meant to happen to tie and link all together when we released this album. That was nothing we had to do with it. I mean, we released it on 630. The album's 360. The track's 40 minutes long. Or the album's 40 minutes long. What is it, Mark? What, Kevin?
I think 1525.
1525 is the only scripture in the gospel that says, and at the third hour they crucified him. Out of all four gospels, that's the only time the third hour is mentioned. And you add that up, it's 40. And our album's 40 minutes long, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Things.
Well, the 6 hours on the cross is equal to 360 minutes, which we had no
clue.
360. The whole title of the album was just basically life comes full circle. You end up
Yeah,
back
coming full
where
circle, yeah.
you need to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just it all just added up. It was pretty crazy the way it worked out.
It's always funny with the numbers too, because then like that's the 40 days Jesus spent out in the desert
Yeah.
to get tempted by the devil.
I
guess that-
There's another
Good one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you guys Catholic or are you just strictly Christian?
We just Christians, man.
Christian, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Actually, we do. Us Catholics, we like doing Lent, which always does like the fish fries on Fridays.
Yeah.
No meat or anything like that. So we'd like to call it Jesus' diet plan, to be honest. So
Yes.
Good call.
if only people could actually view that instead of just being like, I can't eat meat on Fridays, man. What the hell is up with that? That sort of thing.
Right.
So just think of it in that term, and then just like try to give up some of the bad habits, such as drinking and alcohol, and then like moderate that thing if you just still want to drink, that sort of thing, or smoking. Because actually, some of the interviews I've done, because mainly with COVID and everything too, people have given up certain habits because of that too. So, I mean, one guy gave up smoking, that sort of thing too. I guess, did COVID kind of give you guys any sort of blessings, kind of allow you to expand on these projects?
I think that during COVID, I think everybody was searching for some kind of answer. I can't speak for these guys. I know that like I was kind of at the point to, I can't say that COVID made me stronger in my faith, but I definitely spent more time studying the scriptures because you couldn't really go do anything. So you get kind of tired of playing Candy Crush. So but yeah. So like, and then too, we had ample time to where everything during COVID that we reconnected, and that's
fall.
yeah. So yeah, I think that I can't say that it was because of COVID, but there was a positive, something positive sprung during the COVID era.
It's like, for me, it was a screeching, let's just slam on the brakes here. A lot of, like Jaime said, you had a lot of time to think, which I was an essential worker. My life didn't stop for his work, but to think about the world we live in and the things just like that, that quick, just shut down everything, and you kind of get a little taste of reality that, life's your very next breath is not guaranteed, sometimes in the fast-paced world we live in today, we take things for granted so much, and we're blessed, and we're blessed, a blessed nation. The world's blessed, that things is, that we got things that we do get to enjoy in life now. But to me, it really locked me down to really examine myself, as Apostle Paul said, see if you be of the faith, which, I going to church, since I give my life to the Lord, August 22nd, 99. But it was really like, let's look in the mirror here, I got really back to digging, back to the grind, back to seeking God for every step I take, everything I do, every decision I was making. And it really opened my eyes to a little different perspective, things that I took for granted pre-COVID, to be honest with you, for me.
Really, with me, it let me go through and like my work environment changed, so I no longer have to go into the office, and that helped a lot, especially in that first year that we were making music. I spent a lot of time behind, in front of the screen, working on stuff and everything. And
now they want you to go back into the office and torture yourself again, that sort of thing.
Right. Well, I got lucky. I actually transferred to another job, so I'm full-time remote now, and it is fantastic. I love waking up in my PJs and going to work. That's awesome. So, but another thing, Jeff, that you didn't, like, we've never really even discussed this, and I thought about it just now. 2020 was whenever you guys actually, because I know you before then,
yeah.
But that because of COVID happening, that's why you guys came on to and play with us and stuff. And then that's when we became closer and started talking all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
And had it not been for that, it probably wouldn't have worked out this way.
That's That's right. Never thought about that either.
I hadn't either.
So then, in the end, it did come full circle, as we like to say earlier. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, did you guys have any brushes with COVID, or were you all okay?
Oh, I had it 3 times. Like, it was, the first time was horrible. Every time after that was nothing at all. But it was just, I was just unlucky because I wasn't really around a lot of people or anything like that. I was real safe, but it always found its way to me somehow.
I guess Jeff and Jamie.
Jaime?
Yeah, I had it. I don't know, 4 or 5 times. But I run around licking doorknobs and
Oh God, there we go.
No, I had it several times, but it really didn't. I think the one time, like, it kind of affected like my breathing a little
You
bit.
got down the one time with it.
And it took me a couple weeks to bounce back. And what's bad about it was we was recording Believe actually, and like I was struggling. So Kevin, I was like, here, you're going to have to do the guitar work on this. This is actually the first guitar work that Kevin done with us because I was so sick.
That's right.
I didn't have it in me, you know.
That's when you was down the worst with it. Yeah. I got it one time that I know of. And
I'm pretty sure that you give it to me.
it was during that time. Yeah.
We
Oh, you got to blame Jeff for it. There we go.
Yeah. Because I got down. I have heart issues, and but when I got it, I thought it was just possibly just a flu, and then second day I kept getting weaker and worse, and finally I called my boss. I said, I'm gonna go get checked. So I went and got checked, and sure enough, when I went in, of course I'd had, to each his own. I'd already had 3 shots. I'd had the 2 shots and then the third. And so this was late through the COVID. This was real late into it. And so I go in and see the doctor, and she thought I had a bad sinus infection, possibly. So she swabbed me. She went out and she said, you don't have it. She come back in about 15 minutes later. She said, I stand corrected. She said, you do have COVID. And I said, okay. She said, but it's odd that you've come in here this way with these symptoms. She said, because I've seen so many. And then she asked me, she said, have you had any of the shots? I said, I've had 3. She said, well, that's probably why it's not why I didn't think, So I went home, and of course I was having to quarantine at that time. And the next day I got really bad, really sick, and I went back to the doctor, and they hadn't asked about my heart when I was there. And then when I went back, they asked me, do you have any underlying health issues that we might? I said, well, my heart, I've got my lower chamber, my heart ain't no count. And they said, well, we need to put you on this list. And at the time, that was they were still giving the infusions. So they put me on the list to get the infusion. And at that time, it was really hard to get. But that evening, I got a call from the hospital and said somebody has refused to take the infusion. I said, I'll be there in 10. So I went, got the infusion, and within 24 hours, it was like I done completely. That infusion was it was awesome. That's how I started feeling good, started getting back to work. But I was getting down. It was getting me. But that was the only time I got it though. And I was like, I'm an essential worker. I work, I'm a contractor. I build power lines for a living. So, we didn't stop. Hurricane hit down south. We was going south. Hurricane hit up north. I was in Philadelphia for almost 2 weeks, and Delaware working a hurricane that hit the East Coast that year. And we just kept right on working. So I was everywhere, I was exposed, my life never stopped as far as working and going. But I did get it later on somehow. Really don't know how. Couldn't tell you, but yeah. That's the only time I got it.
I was like, you're looking at Jamie right there, so I'm thinking like you're blaming him for something though. So
Yeah, I was actually in Nashville and for work, and I get a phone call and he says, "You might be exposed." And I'm like, "No."
damn it, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm good. It's fake news. I'm good. I'm driving down I-40 and I'm like, "Phew, I'm feeling kind of rough."
Sure enough, you realized then that it was not fake anymore.
News.
Right.
You know, funny enough, I actually did go to Nashville. This was last year. That was actually the first time I actually got COVID as well. So apparently there's something wrong with Nashville. So
Yeah.
they got to sanitize the whole city. So I guess were you bar hopping on Broadway?
Now, I was actually there for work, and I come back from Missouri, and I stayed in Nashville just a night, and that's when he called me. So,
Batting down the edge.
and I was like, "It's not. I'm good." And I think by the time I got to Kentucky, I was like, "I'm not good. Like, this is bad."
I see. That's good to hear, though, and it's good to see you all made it through. So good to have you along for the ride. So I guess we can jump into your YouTube channel a little bit because your YouTube channel actually covers like various songs. I guess you guys do like, was it a little talk show, or do you guys just talk about the gospels and this sort of stuff here and there?
So early on through this, the idea was to do like just the audio clips of like maybe an underlying message pertaining to the lyrics of our songs. And we was going to use the lyrics of our songs as content, like subject content. So we did that for a few months, and we realized pretty early on that there's so much work that had to be done in the recording process, and it was so hard for our schedules to line up to do the podcast. It was just like, it was a logistical nightmare. So we kind of focused on that to finish up recording and work on the album. So as of right now, like our YouTube channel is just mostly just, you know, the songs and the album that we released. We haven't done a podcast in some time. So
We've got a couple recorded that we've not released yet, but like Jamie said, and Kevin does all the mixing and mastering. Jamie handled the podcast, you know, and then Kevin would do the upload. It just was so hard. It's for us to get the album released at the time, you know, we had to just put it on the back burner for now. Yeah. We've got a couple recorded, but we ain't had time to really edit it.
And like our YouTube channel, like, you know, we love the people that subscribe to it. Like it means the world to us. But like our main focus as of late but not a lot of people use YouTube to stream music, not like they do like other platforms, you know. So for the older generation, I guess YouTube's probably a little bit easier. So we do upload our stuff to YouTube. But yeah.
Yeah, we actually met for the Band Together group, the Facebook group. I guess, how'd you guys get on that one?
Jeff. That's all, Jeff. That man's a machine on Facebook.
Be honest, I was one of them anti-Facebook guys. You know, my wife had our Facebook. We went years without it, and it got to the point that where we had to have it. For baseball, for school events, you know, because everybody started these groups. This is how we're going to do things. So we finally, we was one of the late bloomers to ever even have a Facebook page. So we finally got a Facebook page, and even with our page, I really didn't, you know, I wasn't on it much, very rare. And then, of course, we started the band, and Kevin at first. He was controlling the Facebook, doing the mixing, the mastering, Instagram. He was doing all the technical side, and he was getting smoked because he Even I see now why I ended up with the Facebook page.
Burnouts, that sort of thing too.
If you don't stay and keep with it, you've got to, it's every day. It is every day going and trying to keep up, with people's comments and their likes and their shares and you're trying, because we just kicked this thing off last September, and we want to keep growing, keep getting our songs and our message out about about Christ, through our music, and so you really got to stay band together. I'm trying to think. I think I just come across it one day, or I might have got an invite or from somebody from a group maybe. I can't remember, but
this guy has got friends all over the world. Like, he's like, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I'm like, yeah, who's that? And he's like, I have no idea. Don't know who that is.
But I can't remember if we got an invite or I come across of it and I joined it. I can't remember, but that's a good group though, man. Everybody on there really shares their stuff. Everybody from secular music to what we play to a little bit of everything's on there, and everybody's very supportive in that group, very supportive.
And two, I think as far as like all these different Facebook groups that he's introduced us to, like, I think that it shows like there's a common ground between musicians no matter what genre, because our music it does have a spiritual tie, and there's underlying messages in everything that we do, but at the same time, we all still listen to secular music. You know what I mean? Like, and we're not churchy. We're just normal guys, just wanting to jam. And the positive feedback that we've gotten from like death metal groups, it's kind of blown me away, because if you would have told me this like 6 months ago, I mean, like, they're not going to listen to us. You know what I mean? But they are, and it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's
humbling.
It's awesome to see like the camaraderie that musicians have. That I've always felt that towards different genres of music. Like, I like everything from classical to rhythm and blues, like you name it. But I didn't realize that most musicians are like that. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. The funny thing is, and I actually interviewed Box and Sticks, who's the main admin for that group too.
Yeah,
and
I think that's who sent us an invite. I think to join the group. I think, well as I remember. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna say Greg, because I think Greg does the social media work. I think Christina helps with everything else. So, okay. But she had interviewed a lot of the more heavy or metal, those sort of guys as well. And I kind of called her out saying like she has a guilty pleasure of listening to the death metal, that sort of thing too. I guess I was gonna make a joke saying like you guys go to the dark side of the force. That's some of the death metal, that sort of thing too. Yes. That's always like, do confess,
like
Jeff.
Ranger, we're kind of like over here and over here at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're in the gray zone. That sort of thing too. We're totally cool with everybody.
That's cool though, because it gives an inspirational message in an arena that normally there's not an inspirational message to be heard. You know what I mean? There's no transition between secular music and like a Christian message. So, that's the cool thing about our music. It can bridge that gap. That was our whole intention, from day one was, it's cool that Christians enjoy what we do, but at the end of the day, like, someone might not ever have been exposed to this, and they hear our music and they're like, well, that's different. So that's cool. That's what it's about. Relaying the message.
That's pretty cool. I guess, what sort of metal have you guys listened to? I guess, let's see what you guys are guilty of.
I like Mark Tremonti's speed metal. He blows my mind. Like, it's like eating a mind grenade.
Yeah. Jeff or Kevin? You guys delve into the dark
I'll
side?
go after Jeff does.
Oh, you're putting him in the spotlight, man. That's the thing.
About the heaviest I listen to, but I love Metallica. That's about as heavy, and I like old Metallica. You know, I like her new stuff too, but I like, you know, I'm a Ride of Lightning. You know, I'm that Metallica guy. You know, but that's about as heavy as I go. Nothing, no offense to nothing else. You know, I'll listen to other stuff, but that's about as heavy as I go. You know.
For whom the bell tolls just comes riding up to church with that song blasting. So.
Yeah.
Interstate love song. I'm guilty.
Yes.
As far as metal goes, we could say I'm a little bit more metal of the group, which I'm a lot more. I listen to everything. Like I just actually had I got to meet Corey Taylor at a Comic-Con they had in Huntington. Got my picture taken with him. That was super awesome. Great guy.
Oh my god.
But I listen to, I mean, everything from, because you know you got your subgenres of metal and all that, and I love music in general, so it's anything from death metal to like super hardcore, grindcore, everything. I'll listen to anything, anybody, as long as it sounds good. I mean, there's bands that you can listen to that there's a lot of screaming in that and stuff, and that's fine as long. I prefer the ones that's less like guttural screaming, more I can understand a little bit better. Like Lamb of God, I think they're fantastic. Always really liked them. Late '90s, early 2000s, like Mudvayne, Slipknot, things along that line. And then I listen to some newer stuff. I've really been on a kick with the band Sleep Token. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're just completely, I don't even know what genre to really put them in, because they play so many different styles, from like rock and bluesy-ish, poppy-ish almost, all the way up to heavier stuff. So, but yeah, I listen to everything. I mean, I don't discriminate at all.
I was like, we got to hang out more often, that sort of thing. So, I'll tell you, I have heard of Sleep Token. Mainly the song "The Summoning." I think was the song they were playing a lot. The one on the radio a whole lot. It's certainly strange because a lot of the metal, at least if we're going to say progressive sort of metal, tends to incorporate those various genres like blues. Sometimes it was like jump right into a jazz and then just jump right back into death metal, that sort of thing too. I want to send you guys a list and see what you all think about it, but it was certainly strange because the funny thing was a lot of the more heavier death metal groups, mainly out of the 90s and sometimes in the 2000s, they were diehard secular, to be honest. I mean, anti-Christian, unfortunately, and unfortunately the music still attached to you, to be honest. So I guess how did you guys get involved in the metal? Was it like one of your family members introduced it to you? You just discover one day and be like, damn, that is good. That's
so like, as far as I'm concerned, like I never really was like too crazy about like metal. Like I was more like of the Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam kind of, you know, the early mid '90s, and then Creed come out, and then I become obsessed with Mark Tremonti. You know, so that transition from like Southern rock and country that I was raised up around, it was just like a breath of fresh air when I got to the age to where I was like, well, that's cool. I need to check that out, you know. And then I transitioned to a more like progressive style of music. And yeah, I guess I'm a dinosaur because that's my playlist is like, Jeff will tell you, it's Silverchair and Nirvana, you know.
The good band.
No, I seem to like start with like the classic rock, to be honest, and then it just kept transitioning, sometimes getting heavier and doing that.
My wife tells me I'm stuck in a time warp. I said, what do you mean? She said, what do you mean? What do I mean? You know, I get in a truck and Nirvana's, you know, or Stone Temple Pilots, you know. That I'm in the same boat, Jamie, you know. Love the 80s rock, Guns N' Roses, is my favorite out of the 80s.
Queen's right. Queen's right.
Queen's right.
But got into the 90s. Of course, I'm in my teens at that time, and junior high and high school during the 90s. I graduated in 96, so that's pop culture at the time. That's the change. That's the change of the tide that some people hates, the alternative music of the 90s, and the grunge, whatever you want to label it as. But some people don't like it, but it changed music. To me, it changed everything. Unfortunately, like bands my favorite band of all time is Nirvana. I'll never get to see them. Stone Temple Pilots, original members, I'll never get to see them. Soundgarden, the original members, I'll never get to see them. And number 2 on my list behind Nirvana is Alice in Chains, the original members. I'll never get to see them. And it's sad, that the things that struck that time period and us 90s teenagers and stuff, and depression and anxiety, and it carried through. It carried through. It's like a pandemic, struck this country during that time, and a lot of people still deal with anxiety and suicide and stuff, and it's our generation. It's just like a plague. It's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual warfare, but we're an odd generation. We're pre-computers, pre-cell phones. We're the last generation that lived during a time period without that, and we're the only generation that had both that time period and now the generation we live in. But the music during that time, it was like Jaime said, it was just like a pow, breath of fresh air. I remember the first time I heard Nirvana, and of course it was Smell Like Teen Spirit. My younger brother, he gets a CD, comes home, we go in the bedroom that night, and he said, listen to this band. And it's Nirvana, it's the Nevermind album, and first song, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and I was like the rest of the world was. It's like, wow.
Oh my God, that's something.
What is this?
Mom, is my flannel washed?
Yeah.
She's like, it's July, Jeff. You don't need a flannel. Yeah, I do. Give me a flannel.
I need my flannels. I still wear flannels today.
I mean, say that we go with the tank top next. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 90s was great. 90s music was great. But I love, Metallica, love them too. But yeah, that's first genre and style and all that. Kevin's more the metal guy out of the three of us, for sure. Nothing wrong with that. It's all got a purpose. You know what I mean? Everything has a purpose under the sun. That's what the scripture says. So there's a reason for everything. There's a purpose for everything, So it's all good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I kind of started off the same way. I'm a little bit younger than Jeff, but I think I grew up in the best time frame for music. Because I'm not kidding. I was born in '84, so mid '90s. I was in my early pre-pubescent, pre-teen years and such. So I'd heard of Nirvana because I had one aunt that was a little bit older, and she listened to your '80s rock, like your Cinderellas, your Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, all that stuff, and introduced me to that.
Damn, she's good, man.
Yeah. And then my other aunt, she was more of the grungy, and so she introduced me to Stone Temple Pilots and Nirvana and Collective Soul and Alice in Chains and all that line. So I'm listening to all that growing up. I didn't really listen to metal until, I'd heard some Metallica here and there, but never really been exposed to it a lot. And then once I started playing music, because I graduated in 2002, so the 99, 98 to 2000s era when new metal hit, and you had the Slipknots and Mudvayne, Stained, Breaking Benjamin, Linkin Park, all these heavier bands that were actually more mainstream at that time. So MTV's playing them and everything. And then I start playing guitar around 15 and meeting other people to play. And then they expose me to, well, hey, have you listened to this? And then I'm listening to Metallica. And then somebody's like, well, hey, have you heard this? And then here's Dimebag and Pantera. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is that? That is awesome. And, you know, it's just kind of been, and then, you know, that era right there when I was, you know, 14 to 18 years old before I graduated and everything, that's when all this heavier, you know, System of a Down came out then. And it's just a lot of these bands that nowadays, you know, I get it. These kids are like, oh, well, that's old people music. Well, these bands are the reason that you have your new bands like the Bring Me the Horizons and Ashes of New and all that stuff. And like those bands wouldn't be playing the way they're playing now had it not been for, you know, Slipknot coming along and Linkin Park's influenced a lot of bands with these hybrid styles. Because that's a lot of the stuff I hear now. Because I listen to, you know, Sirius XM and stuff, and you've got like bands like Opera Veil, great band. I've seen them live; they're even better live. And you know, the little bit of, you know, the rap mixed with the metal all together. And yeah, I mean, you could throw Limp Bizkit in there too. I'm not going to hate on them; they were great at their time. Korn, probably one of the best. Korn's probably one of the best bands from that era, but it influences all this other metal that I listen to now. I think when I was learning to play, I bought the book for the Stained Break the Cycle album, and I bought the book for Seven Dust Animosity, and I had no idea what drop tuning was until I bought those books, and I was like, you could tune a guitar in something else besides, you know, standard E tuning. I was like, this is awesome. And that just completely changed the game altogether. But yeah, Seven Dust probably one of my favorite heavier bands of all time. I think they were a little bit genty before gent was really invented, so to speak, and came along and became its own genre. They were always just kind of that offbeat, like the syncopation and stuff that they use in their music was always something that caught my ear. And they just always wrote good music, great live band too. But yeah, as you can tell, I listen to a little bit more metal. But that's
what I was saying. We need to hang out more.
Yeah, that's my niche right there. Like that's where I thrive. I love it. But at the same time, I love all music because it didn't come from like I love my mama to death, but I grew up with my mom listening to Alabama and Elvis Presley and the Eagles and Leonard Skinner and Bob Seger. So it's just been a wide range of music that I was exposed to for a long time. So of course, when I started learning to play, I started trying to learn to play all of that stuff, everything that I'd always heard.
I was gonna say, you guys struck me like you would listen to Pantera and probably blast whenever Walk comes on. So,
oh yeah,
but I guess
I actually got to see them with the new lineup with Zach filling in and I can't remember the drummer's name now. Yeah, I got to see them at in Florida at the Welcome to Rockville. And it was pretty impressive. I was kind of skeptical going into it, but it was they did a really good job.
You know, I don't know how to exactly take it because I don't think Dimebag or Vinny would very much approve the whole thing, like using the name. So that's the only reason why I'm still skeptical of it. I'm sure they're kicking ass, that sort of thing, but it's like, are you sure you should call yourself Pantera? Because wasn't it Dime and Vinny who actually formed the group and they just brought Rex and Phil in? So I don't know. I think Phil tries to search for some sort of redemption, to be honest.
Yeah, so, he does.
Something like that too. But so we did list a good number of bands, I guess. Who would you consider has been your biggest influences? I guess Jeff, then Jamie, then Kevin. You can go last.
Biggest influence? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Mason, you first.
Me first?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You go from left to right, that sort of thing, too. Hey, we actually did a Seven Dust sort of a reference there. So
I write a lot of songs. That's what I love to do. I like to write. I like to write lyrics. My mom's poetry actually published, so I guess that's where I get that from. So I like to write lyrics. I like to write songs. And I back years ago, I kind of backed off, but Kurt Cobain, his philosophy, and I won't share it with a lot of people because a lot of people don't know this, so I'm gonna keep it to myself. But Kurt Cobain, really, as far as writing wise, I really take his format on how to write lyrics. So as far as influencing me musically, and that's when I really started loving music. I liked it before, grew up listening to music, and and growed up in church as a child. And I used to love to sing in church. Actually, in fifth grade, when I was in fifth grade, I'd get up in front of the class at the end of the day, and I would sing at the end before the bell rung to go home before they started loading the buses. I would actually get up in front of the fifth grade class and sing from time to time. A song, from church or something, and it's been a long time ago, but influence first what I play and the style I play and write at, probably Nirvana, Kurt Cobain. I guess that's what I guess I answered that right, didn't I? Yeah.
I'd say a little bit longer, but it was at least, it was good. That's good. So I guess,
with me, early on, I was influenced by like GNR. I like the flow of Guns N' Roses music, and maybe a little bit more of a Southern style, like Skinner and the Allman Brothers, and like Molly Hatchet, like from like 70s bands. But then, like in the mid 90s. Late 90s when Creed came out, and I heard Mark Tremonti play, which we haven't really done that style yet. We haven't released anything like from that side of what I do, but
it's there.
like Kevin was talking, he bought the book, and I couldn't figure out how to do what he was doing. It was just like I couldn't unlock it. And usually I didn't have trouble like learning stuff from listening to like the cassette or the CD. So I bought the book, and it was talking like dadgad and open D tuning and open B tuning, and I'm like, what is this? And then I was learning these different tunings, and it just opened up it was like opening up a door, and I was hooked. So more nowadays, like that style of playing, like with alternate tunings, like I really enjoy that, and it's because of Creed.
I'm seriously picturing like you're listening to a song with arms wide open, that sort of thing too, because a lot of people seem to kind of joke about that song these days, which is it's kind of a shame too, because it's still a nice song, everything
pretty
too.
Cool. Yeah, it's not one of my favorites, but like it's necessary, I guess. It was part of their journey. So.
Still a good song.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's either that or higher. It's gonna be that one too. Yeah. So
I think that the song One. I think that's probably one of my favorites that Creed did.
Good.
Yeah.
First album's my favorite album, and it's like, to me, I listen to the first album, listen to the second album. I love the second album too, like day and night.
Yeah.
First album, there's a lot of aggression in it, a lot of pain in it, a lot of angry. Then the second album, it's full of light.
Is this Nirvana or is this Creed?
Creed.
Okay.
Yeah, My Own Prison. It's a lot of. Now listen to both albums. You'll see. I don't know. You might notice that already. It's like they're night and day. First album, a lot of aggression, a lot of pain, a lot of in your face stuff. It's dark, and then you get Human Clay, and it's a lot of light. It's a lot of.
There's a lot of
spiritual meaning behind, and a lot of lyrics in Human Clay.
I was gonna say it kind of reminded me similar how Stain was in a way too.
Yeah.
Like how their first couple albums were, with a whole lot of pain and that sort of thing too.
Yeah.
Maybe Break the Cycle had some sort of light into it. If we're thinking like maybe some songs like Warm Safe Place or something like that. So
I gotta throw
maybe something like
I gotta throw Three Doors Down too. Like I'm a huge Three Doors Down fan. So.
Oh my gosh, I remember listening to that one like crazy back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my dad. He always loved like the song "Never Enough,"
Yeah.
that sort of thing, or "Not Enough." Sorry, I think it was "Not Enough."
Yeah.
That's right.
I seen them live, and yeah, they were awesome. Like they interacted with the crowd really well. I'm a fan, even now.
I would say I think their newest album kind of turned me off for some reason. It didn't seem like it was the same like how the Better Life was, or I guess some of their later albums too. Because
It kind of felt generic. I kind of felt like it was kind of generic, or maybe even rushed. Like I didn't. There was no passion in it. Like I wasn't a fan either.
yeah, all right, and we've been blocking out Kevin here, so I guess Kevin, who would consider your biggest
No,
influence?
you're good.
So,
My biggest influences, I'd have to say, as far as lead, playing and things like that, definitely Guns N' Roses. I've always been a big Slash fan. Like he's probably the reason I played guitar. Like I saw him whenever I was younger, little kid just looking up on the TV, and I'm like, who is this dude? Like this guy's awesome. I want a hat like that, and I gotta play guitar. That's why all my guitars are basically Les Paul body style. But Zeppelin was a big influence, like as far as musically. Just learning a lot of the stuff that they done, because that was kind of early on while I was playing. But like Jeff said, Nirvana, I learned how to play the whole Nevermind album from beginning to end, like whenever I was starting to learn. But as far as writing music, like when I would write my own music, all of that early 2000s ish stuff was a big influence on my lyrical style and stuff like that. And when it comes to guitar playing, I pull from everywhere. Because to me, it's, I want whatever I'm writing to fit the song, especially if they've already, like with these last tracks that we've done, they already had something in place. So it was me filling in and adding a little bit here and there. And it was, okay, what's going to serve the song the best? So like on Elijah, the bass line, I pulled from Alice in Chains. Like I kind of, channel that inner, okay, well, if this, because that's what I felt whenever I was listening to the song. It really just, it depends on what the song is. I might do something that's a little bit GNR-ish. I might throw something out there. It's got a little bit of like a Breaking Benjamin riff or something like that in there. It really just depends on what we're doing, but I try to take, it was one, I think it was Brent Smith from Shinedown had always, he said this, and it was on a DVD I had, I believe it was, that it was his failure to sound like the people that his failure to sound like his heroes that allowed him to sound like himself. So that's kind of where I'm at. I always try to, okay, this song sounds like kind of like this genre and this person or this band, and I try to do something like that, and I kind of get my own thing out of it and still add my own flair and own touch to it, in other words.